Indigenous is a cultural activist based at Kailicha. We use this medium, yeah, rap as a medium, your communicator, who's part of your art form, your culture, hip hop. Yeah, ndikhulele apha eKhayelitsha. Ifamily yam arrived 1985, and I've been here for the past 20 years now. Yeah, since I've been based at the college, introduction with hip hop was actually going outside. Your phone, where my family, yeah, and introduced outside to the so-called colored middle class schools. So just we studied with the so-called colored people and white people. Pana, I got to understand different sounds because I was coming from a community where Ecuador was mainly dominated by Pana. I got to be exposed to the sound of urban culture. Spaces like Gurob FM, there was DJ Bongani John, where during the week he would play rap music. When there's a slot afternoon drive, so Gurob FM was a home for me as a teenager, just to hear a lot of rap music. And then as it was I got to pick up Head Almost Radio Bush. That time Kwakuko DJ Big Dre, and there was Shahim from the Professor of the City. So every Friday it was a lesson from my class from 10 o'clock until 1 o'clock, where I've listened to all these different records from around the world, and I would hear a lot of unsigned artists. And at that time, inside African country, rap music actually didn't even have what today we call as Umzansi rap industry. It was just rap music. It was either you'd hear one rapper yalapha South Africa on TV ungayilindelanga appearishe from nowhere, and if it was the artist that we knew as part of the culture of hip hop, these were people that were representing Tina. It would feel like an achievement, and it felt like rap music is one day a South Africa going to become a voice. And programs like there was a program that was called Sprite Rush Hour. That's where I saw a lot of local music videos from Cashless Society or Specs, the likes of Amu, your Squatter Camp before they even got signed. And the program they incorporated with the basketball. So at that time, basketball was another thing I got introduced as a tool just to run away from caught up on part of groups of thugs or when you're doing mugging. So it became a way I'm your escaper, and it was the best thing that at that particular time for my life when it came, it was very easy to identify because rap music already be seen in Mamela, and most movies that came in the 90s that had a lot of images of basketball that was cooperated with rap music. So for me it wasn't so difficult Tata rap music ibe medium yam, because even Kafunda outside of the township, you come back with a lot of things, you get exposed to ECT, and then we back up in sometimes a lot of young people they might misinterpret to it now because from the outside you might be called a Model C, a bourgeois, a cheese boy. So rap music, because yeah, Tanam, and I was very curious in the language English, it became very easy to identify because these were black people, and maybe Fana Natu were just in America, and Ngula rap just gave me another perspective community to understand the world, because rap music there's so much information or guitar but so curious. The first time I actually heard Snoop Doggy Dogg record that was called Doggy Style, he had a track part that was called 187, and I didn't even know nothing about what the meaning of 187 until I started listening to Snoop Doggy Dogg, and then the movie American X. From Gula movie, then I saw a scene where there was a black man actually who was put in against the pavement by this white kid, and in cover at the back, and okay, so yeah, explain in that movie because the images, the movies that came from Spike Lee that were actually representing rap, because Mngula rap was actually just marginalized in America for many years, and then in the 90s it became just as so viable that from your sneakers to your hoodies, your jeans, your t-shirts, and had a lot of images of his street culture. And Spike Lee just took a lot of Ezra's story that were untold, big communities of black people, and then he put them on the stream. And he wasn't even scared to challenge the white supremacy as America, because from Gula movie, who do the right thing, the one he did with Denzel Washington near basketball, it was an eye-opening. He did 21 Jump Street. He even had Jungle Fever, because Jungle Fever, the term Jungle Fever was just identifying abantu abamnyama babekwi interrelationships in America, how sometimes it was contradicting amongst themselves, badate abantu for many years, maybe oppressor. But as time moved, people fully integrated each other, because Ndole rap teaches us actually to not see each other through the color of his skin. Sikwazi to identify each other through the way how we conduct ourselves, the characters too, the way how we articulate, we intellectual too. And it just gave a room, Ndule rap, where we got uplifted, because most friends first friends I had, the first things I was identifying was rap music, and we went outside of Elokshini Ufunda. So we became as our friends, because we felt like such isolated from the community too. But we had this one thing that is comfort, it was Umbulo rap. And because it was South Africa in the mid-90s, what they were broadcasting, it had a lot of images that came from America and music that came from the West Coast. So even Amtulu that came from the West Coast, it was an eye-opening of understanding the strata of America. And then as Ziklasha just started growing, I started getting more the sound, wanting to hear Es Nizin, and then I picked up a record of Itela Soul, the 96, who Status High, and these brothers, Kabe rapper, there was no cursing, there was no identity of Bamisa, but gang, bon Babamisa, but black ideas, and from Pana, Quitela Soul, and introduced with Tribe Called Quest. Then from Tribe Called Quest, I went with Jungle Brothers, got to Queen Latifah. From Queen Latifah, I got to Brand Nubians. So it was just a circle of a food chain. About Babi understand this ideology of the blackness. And later on, I found it out from good Jungle Brother. Unyana, Katatu African Bambata was part of that, and they took me to understand about the Universal Zulu Nation. So from now, just to hear the word Universal Zulu Nation with black people, Babes America, there was this identifier inside in Africa. It made me to ask myself a question: what am I? And then Dead Prez said it nice and clear. I think M1 was saying, but I'm not an African American, I'm an African. So that gave more pride. See, the identity of its self-realization, and just picked up a Steve Biko book, and it was just another eye-opening. And at that time in South Africa, this is unraveled actually to understand what is democracy. And there was a few minority of black kids maybe studied outside. Some of them, they would conduct themselves very snobbish because of illusionicity, because sometimes even myself, honestly, I got caught up the illusion as a city, because I thought everything in the city is so perfect. Even my niece recently told me that he feels more comfortable clubbing in the city more than in the township. So for me, that was just a laugh at that moment, because I understood, she does not understand the other complexity of his city, how his city has been controlled, because the second year right now she's actually studying a cannabis, so everything is still new. And from there we just took music as something that was very important, because one thing that I always say to a lot of people when they do service with hip-hop, like when I was at school, I never actually had an interest really on books. For me it was just reading a passage and passing to the next class, but rap music took me back to take literature, very important. because whatever you hear in a rap record, you might not understand some of those sentences in between. So it takes you back to a book, or you have to go back with session, with class, like Last Emperor, who track Keres one, the features with Lexus Lounge one. He says, as the free market expands like a West Desert land. What do I know about a free market? The free market is system of democracy, but just for the sake that he said that, it made me curious. What's this wasteland of the free market at Chitangayo? And then I went back quick last year history and politics. Introduction was to rap music, because rap music, all these rappers have different political ideologies. You know, others, the Republicans, abanye, the Democrats. So you can hear a lot of school of thought of Abandu, of understandings. Even when you listen to it, Dead Press, you hear a lot of Pan-Africanist ideas. So they don't even affiliate themselves as the Republicans or Democrats. They see themselves as Africans, and they understand themselves. In JB America, it was true slavery. So Abazo, original Americans, you know, they are a group of black people by a part true a system, yes, slavery that was embracing capitalism, you know. So through Mdula rap, I got to understand many of the complexities that were happening around the world of black people, or it's either Asian people, or it's either people from African countries. And Yandenza, I think I'd be so ignorant to look at just Cape Town or South Africa. It made me very curious about Africa. It actually grew in me because if really I think about it, in the 90s there were very few people that were rapping Ekasi. There wasn't even park jams, Ekasi. The only time you'd bump to a park jam, organized it, was either the Rastafarism community. You know, because the Rasta people, when it comes with sound system, it's one thing that they've managed to uitata from the roots as Jamaica and bring it to Rastafarism around the world, where the sound is very important. And I just grew, and I felt like there was something I needed to say in Nam too, because all those records I was listening to, Zandipa, an idea of sharing with peers. And the first rap I wrote, it was just about how dope I was. It wasn't really about a certain issue that I saw. It was a problem that people I needed to address. It was about how dope I am in this mic, and how nice I am. Sometimes in your own community, the music of rap, because it's bambalwa, and you feel like you want to voice out, and you see yourself as part of a culture, hip hop. You don't see yourself just as rapper selling a record. But right now, Jesugule Millennium, that's something that's been happening. A lot of people are not interested to be part of a culture, hip hop. Their interest is just to become the rapper, sell the record, and get money, because we're coming from a poor working class background where some of us must dropouts, and we see as music videos the people that drive a nice cars, they're shooting videos with ghettos up, but we're not told so much about the artists as Mamela, how well academic they've went further with studies. We just sing La Lamla Tiabo. So any person has a role actually to read, because whatever you'll be reading, you'll be actually interpreting in your own rhymes. So a lot of people, by that person has big vocab. There's no such thing as a big vocab. It's just a matter of maybe if vocab or user, I don't know what's a comfortable zone, you need to expand your vocab, because there's so much language that's used out there. Politicians have their own language, so it's very important now to understand a language about user, not for them to fool you, because sometimes if Sicily, and we're only waiting when our president of our country, my grandma, before she passed away, the only thing we landed a good budget speed, it was kwi-budget speedway lindela laa ndawo i-president yase-South Africa would be talking about unyuse emalini kwimali ye-grant. You know, so that's very bad for the majority of citizens of South Africa that are black people, just to wait for a figure imali where they're supposed to be concerned about a health yabo, a safety, better housing, a workplace, how much is about suitable for born and hours about. So there's from now, I don't want to just hear you rapping, Kopel. I want you to hear your intelligence, your street knowledge, or is desire. I want you to take me to a new world that right now, kule world in Iguyo, I might not vision. Can you share vision? Yako nam, they build a new vision. I could have other people now, but share one vision because Sibona very far in the Yomtolo rap, but we don't realize the people who are doing that music, from DJs, craft writers, the MC, the breaker, we are part of La Culture Hip Hop. So La Culture Hip Hop, I need is where there's a punk jam. You're on a 24/7 because hip hop is when. I live Lando because every day life is interpreted between the MC rhymes. Sometimes another MC could uplift me ngelwayithetha ngalamzuzu, knowing his struggles samanje ndedwa okula situation iyenza my bag feel lighter. So now right now what I write, I try so much it was to touch other people and it was to shift our minds as one from thinking just one way to say, okay, here's another thought about Lando, where now maybe we're feeding by a program of the day of the system yet, you know.